Our next session is the Office of Small Business Programs Update. Please welcome Ms. Carlen Capenos, Director, Office of Small Business Programs.
All right, thanks everybody for being here this afternoon. We're here a little earlier than I was expecting to be here. And so I just want to let you know, if you thought you were getting out early, you're not, because I can talk all day. So anyway, thanks for your attendance today. Again, my name is Carlen Capenos, and I am the Director of DISA's Office of Small Business Programs. Today we're going to talk a little bit about our goals, what we achieved last year, FY19, what our goals for FY20 are. But the bulk of what I want to talk about today is actually what you small businesses can do for DISA. What you can do for us before proposals come out, what you can do during your proposal preparation, and then what you need to do for us afterwards. And the good news for the folks that represent large businesses in the audience is that all of it pertains to you too. In fact, some of the stories I may or may not share may or may not have come as a result of faux pas from large businesses. All right, so let's talk first about what we achieved last year. When I stood up here last year, I told you a couple things that, I love the Steelers, who, by the way, while it might have been the Colts that lost yesterday, it still counts as a win for the Steelers. But last year we had six records that we set. And the good news is that this year we had 7 new records. Now, the percentages, our goals for last year stayed the same, so we exceeded our goals even more on the ones that are circled. But as I told you last year, percentage doesn't mean anything. A percentage is really driven by what the denominator is and not necessarily how we achieved. 1% of $100 isn't a whole lot, but 1% of $1 billion is a lot more. But what really counts is the dollars that we awarded directly to small businesses, and we hit our highest dollars ever executed in 4 of the 5 categories. So I think that in and of itself is worth a round of applause for our contracting folks. All right, so then the next slide. We haven't been assigned our FY 2021 goals yet, so we're going under the premise at this point that they're the same. Once we get those assigned, if they're different, we'll adjust them. But obviously, our goal is to put more dollars in your pockets as prime contractors, small businesses. As most of you know, and for those of you that don't, at DISA, one of the reasons for our success, I believe, is the fact that we assume every requirement that we have is automatically set aside for small business, unless and until the market research bears that small business can't do it. And again, I really need to put the shout out to our contracting officers that make those recommendations. The good news is that we've met all of our goals for the last 2 years, so my office has not had to twist the arms of our contracting officers who are making the good decisions that lead to our ability to exceed these goals every year. All right, so the next slide, who my office is. Right now we have 3 folks, myself, Brenda Leonard, who is out at our Scott Air Force Base location, and Corey Wallard, who sits up here at Fort Meade. We are your point of contacts for your entry into DISA if you are a small business, and we have our email at the end that you can contact us with any questions or any concerns that you have, and we will be your advocate for whatever your concern is. But let's talk about what small businesses can do for us on the next slide, please. So before the award, there are some things that you can do to position yourself to help us. The first is to do your homework. You need to know who we are, what we buy. You need to understand our forecast and how we buy. What contract vehicles do we use? How do we do our market research? If you haven't attended our DISA 101, ask for an invitation to that and we'll get it to you. And we talk about all those things. And we gear the session, it's a 3-hour in-person session every other month. And then on the flip side of that, in between the months, we're starting to do some online versions of it for those that aren't in the NCR. But we talk about who DISA is, we talk about what we buy, how we buy it, and the bulk of it really is about what contract vehicles we use, how we do our market research, and how you can get information about what's upcoming. But you'd be surprised how many people that I meet when I do my one-on-one sessions that don't understand that the I in DISA does not stand for intelligence. So if you don't know who we are and what our problems are and the issues that we have, you're not going to be a very effective small business contractor for us. So do your homework. If you've ever gone to our DISA.mil website, we have fact sheets on every program that we have that talks about what we do, and you need to figure out how what you do aligns with what we do. The second bullet, know what your company is really good at. I will tell you this, it's not everything. And anytime a company comes in to market me and tell me that they can do anything that I want them to do, I kind of stop listening, because you're not somebody that knows what you're really good at and what piece of our mission you can execute for us. So don't tell me that you can do everything. Tell me what you do and what you do really well. And when you're looking at our RFPs, that's something to focus on. Does this requirement match your core competencies? You also need to know why you're better. When companies come in and talk to me and they ask about giving them contracts, I say, why should I? What about your company makes you better than everybody else? Makes me go, oh my God, we need to have you working for us. And almost all the time, the people that are sitting across from me can't articulate why their company is good. If you come to our DISA 101 class, we have all the companies come up and introduce themselves. And one of the questions I make them answer is, what's the best thing about your company? If you can't right now in your head think about what is the best thing in your company, you need to think about that. You need to be able to put in a proposal why we should pick you. What makes you better than your competition? When you're coming into meetings, if you do get that meeting with our program folks that you want to talk to, if you come in and talk to my staff or my office, or you're coming to a meeting or an engagement or anything inside DISA, be on time. It really reflects poorly on you if you're not there on time. Because I sit there and think, if you can't be on time for something that's trying to impress us, what's going to happen when you have that contract? Are you going to be able to deliver on time at that point? The other thing is, don't waste my time. But more importantly, don't waste your time. I know that your dollars and your business development are limited, so don't miss your opportunity to come in and ask us every question that you want an answer to. If you're 25 minutes late, you've just missed half of your appointment and half of the time. Because I will tell you, I book my meetings back to back to back, every hour on the hour, all day on Tuesdays. And if you're late because you couldn't get parking, or you're late because you got lost, you've lost out on your time. All right. Know what our showstoppers are. You can argue with me all day long about the clearance process. I'm going to agree with you. I know it's the chicken or the egg, but they're not my requirements. And when DISA has a requirement for security, or this upcoming CMMC, or SCRIM, it's for a reason. We don't just do it to make it difficult for you. I had an opportunity last weekend to visit a memorial bridge for a friend of mine that died in Iraq. We don't make up these requirements because we want to. We do it because we have to. Past performance. If you're really good at what you do, take advantage of our requirements that give you an opportunity to showcase that. Look for our best value trade-off competitions. If you're a new company that doesn't have a lot of past performance, then an LPTA may be better suited for you. But if we're asking for past performance and you don't have it, know that that's going to be a barrier as well. Respond to our sources sought notices. This information is used to determine set-asides. Anytime you see us post an RFI or a sources sought notice out on FBO, it's a real requirement. We're not making you provide information for us to figure out if we really want to do something. By the time we put it out there, we are looking to validate that it's available commercially. We're validating whether small business can and will do it. And if we already know small business can do it, we're trying to figure out, can we further set it aside to service disabled veteran-owned business, to women-owned small businesses, hub zone, or even competitive 8A. And we also need to know what contract vehicles you have as well, because that helps steer the acquisition. We use that information in our market research to determine whether we're going to set aside, whether we're going to further set aside, and also, like I said, the vehicle that we will use. So that is important that you respond to those that you know that your company can do. All right, next slide. During the proposal preparation, spell check your proposal before you send it in. You'd be surprised how many proposals we get that are still in draft form. You'd be surprised at how many proposals we get that have misspelled words. When companies send in Word documents, all the misspelled words are underlined in red. One, don't send in Word documents, PDF them. But two, spell check them. You know, the quality control piece of it, the dot your I's, cross your T's. When you've been working on a proposal and putting your heart and soul into it, you can't see the forest for the trees. You can't see that it doesn't say what you think that it says. You need to invest in time and maybe even money into having somebody else quality control your document. Have somebody with clean eyes read it. Even on our source selection document, we always have somebody else read the final document, or multiple people read it that weren't necessarily involved in the source selection process, because you need somebody that's not emotionally invested in it, and somebody that's really good at grammar, and somebody that really understands the requirement to make sure that what your document says is what you mean for it to say. When we put out an RFQ, we are required to evaluate it in accordance with what we said we were going to do. So if you have a better way of doing something, don't tell us. You're supposed to laugh. What I mean by that is, if you don't submit to your RFP in the manner in which we asked you to submit to it, you may end up with a deficiency. If we ask you to tell us A, B, and C, but your way of doing it only requires A and B, and you don't answer C, that might be a deficiency which makes you automatically excluded from award. We know that you're smarter than us. That's why we're contracting it out. But we have to evaluate everything on a level playing field, and we have to evaluate it the way that we said we were going to do. Otherwise, we open ourselves up to protest. And if we don't do what we said we were going to do, we're going to lose that protest. What you need to do is, if you see something that has a better way of doing it, ask that question during the solicitation period, or more importantly, answer the RFP the way that we asked you to submit for it. Win the contract, execute the work in the manner in which your PWS states, and then talk with your program managers to say, you know what, there's a better way that we could do this, or submit a white paper on a different way to do it. All right, submit your proposal early. One thing that has never been in my entire 23 years of government service is that late is late. If your proposal comes in late, we cannot accept it. It's late, and you're not going to win that in GAO. You're not going to win that protest. If we tell you that it's due on noon today, you do not have to wait until noon today to submit it. The other thing that you need to remember, since we're accepting electronic proposals, is that if you have a really big proposal and you're coming in, you're sending in multiple emails, don't take the chance that something's going to get hung up in our firewall or even your firewall. I have had a situation where we didn't get a piece of a proposal because that company's own firewall rejected it. And I think that's going to hurt worse than if our firewall rejected it. So don't wait until the last minute. You can send it in the day before, you can send it in an hour before, you can send it in a week before. Don't take the chance that there's going to be a server issue, that something's going to get rejected, or that your file's so big it's not going to come through until after the proposal due date. The other thing I would say is understand your competition. Sometimes they are better than you. If you know they're better than you and you can't beat them on the way that we set the proposal up, then understand that going in, maybe work with them. Maybe know that your price is going to have to be so low that will compensate, that we wouldn't be willing to trade off for theirs. But that rolls into the last one, so I'll save it for the end. But the other thing is understand the federal contracting rules. Okay, we at DISA didn't make them up. We just have to make sure that we enforce them, that we live by them, that we live within them. So when you're upset about the way that a federal contracting rule is, just remember that we didn't make them up, but we have to enforce them. The last part, and I will say it out loud, protesting. Please don't do it just for fun. Please don't do it just because it's your business practice. Please review what you got back from the contracting people that told you why you didn't win. And then go read your proposal. And maybe even have somebody that isn't emotionally involved with it to see if the way we reviewed and we evaluated your proposal is actually in line with how you wrote your proposal. And if we made a mistake, you should protest it. But if you just have hurt feelings because you didn't win, you are impacting our mission and our ability to get our work done. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying think about it. Think about what you have to gain and what we have to lose before you protest. All right, let's go to the next slide, the good stuff, after you won. All right, so this is really, really important, that when you win, to make my life really easy, what I need for you to do is do well. When small businesses do well, then the PMs are happy and everybody's happy and they don't complain about small businesses not being able to execute work. Because the worst thing that you can do for me and for DISA, and most importantly our warfighter, is fail to perform. You've heard several people up here talk about being able to scale up and to understand that what your company can do and the difference between a business development person and then the people that have to actually perform the work. Make sure that you can execute the work on the proposals that you've submitted. Because again, the best thing for everybody in this room, everybody that's a small business in this room, that you can do after you win a contract is to perform it well. Because the next time it comes up for a recompetition, everybody knows small business can do it. The next thing, deliver what your proposal promised. The FTEs and the clearance level. If you propose 20 FTEs in your cost or price proposal, DISA's thinking you're going to give us 20 people. Even if it's firm fixed price. Our expectation is that you will deliver what you promised in your proposal. And even if it's firm fixed price and you tell us you're going to give us 20 people and you give us 6 or 8, we're going to ask why. All right. Next thing is deliver on time. It's not really a suggestion. We need you to deliver what we need when we need it on time to the quality that we need it delivered. I would also say ask for feedback. So many times I talk to companies or anytime we're going to terminate a contract, a small business contract, it actually has to come through my office and we have to be made aware of it. And often I'll pick up a phone and I'll call the small business. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Oh, great, it's great. Really? Are you sure? Well, we think it's great. Why? What do you know? I'm like, I know it's not great. Now, sometimes we can bring companies in and we can talk to them with the contracting officer and the program people, And sometimes it's really about communication. And sometimes, quite frankly, we've messed up or we haven't given you something. And so we want to have those dialogues that if you're not getting something from us that you need, some GFI, some GFE, you're struggling with getting your VARs approved, let us know and see how we can help you. Bring it to the attention of your contracting officers, of your program managers, of your project managers. And if you're not getting the help that you need, come to my office and we'll see what we can do to help you. Because the problem is that when you don't ask for feedback and you don't know that you're failing, it's hard to recover from it. Especially when you have a brand new contract, you should be asking for a monthly sit-down feedback meeting so you can look at people across the table from you to say, how are we doing? Now, that's also your opportunity to tell us when we're not doing well either. Hey, you know what, you were supposed to give me those laptops. You know, we're short 6 laptops for our people and they can't work without them. Or, hey, we need that GFI. You wanted us to run that analysis on that information, but you didn't give it to us, so we can't do the analysis. The feedback goes both ways. Don't wait till your annual CPARs to be surprised that the government did not think that you did well. Again, you'd be surprised how many owners are told everything's great, everything's fine, when it's not. You need to validate for yourself that it is okay, that the PM tells you, yep, you're delivering what we want, when we want, to the quality that we want. We know everybody wants to do well, but if we don't tell you that you're not doing well, ask us how you're doing. And ask early. Remember, back to the best thing you can do for me is to do well. You make my job easy when you do well. And finally, the last note on this is don't do what's not in your contract. We discussed earlier that we know that you're smarter than us, and we know sometimes that our PMs are like, oh man, if you could just do this or that. But what happens is that when you do things outside of your contract, and you bill us for it, one, we can run out of money, but you're also working outside of the scope of your contract, which causes problems. If we need to add something to your contract or if we need to change something about your contract, there are methods and means in which we can do it. But to keep everybody out of trouble, make sure you're not working outside of your scope of your contract. And if you are, please contact your contracting officer and let them know, and they will help you resolve the issues so we can get the government what it needs at the right price. All right, next slide. So what's my office? What are we looking to do? We're looking to get out more. When we were looking at the events we were doing in-house, what we were realizing is there wasn't always the value added in doing them. So we're trying to get out and participate in other events where bigger and more people are located. So we're trying to get out to more events this year. You'll see that. We are doing our first joint event with NSA and Cybercom's Office of Small Business. If you're on our emailing list, we've already sent that out to you. It's December 3rd. The Fort Meade Alliance is hosting it for us. The one thing I did want to add, since I know we started the day talking about CMMC, we're actually going to have the keynote speaker for that event is going to be talking about CMMC and how it affects small business. So for anything else, that in and of itself may be worth the price of admission. The folks from OSD that are running that program that got those 2,000 comments, they're going to be the ones speaking for that. And so innovation, working with our contractors and our customers on options. Those of you that know me know that SETI is near and dear to my heart, and so we're trying to translate what small business can do, what our SETI contract vehicle can do, what our emerging technologies directorate can do, and we're trying to all work together to figure out ways to not only be innovative in solving the problems that we have, but innovative in the contract methods in which we can do. We're also updating our external website to provide more value-added information, including pictures. We all like pictures, so those are out there. We're going to try to get up our schedule of where we're going to be and what events we're going to be hosting. We're also picking up our pace on sending you out more emails on information that will be valuable to you to know. And with that, my last slide's just our email information. If you want to attend a DISA 101, send us an email there and we'll get you set up with that on the dates of that. Again, we have an office at Fort Meade and an office at Dicko Scott, and those are the phone numbers. All right, so I didn't talk all afternoon, so any questions?
Your first question. Why is the hub zone goal only 1.5% when the DoD goal is 3%?
The goals that get assigned to us are negotiated with SBA through DoD, and they look at historically what you've done. They look at the marketplace and the hub zone companies in that. And for the IT technology base, that's what they determine should be the goal that we meet versus the overall 3% for the whole federal government. But as you saw on that second slide, we actually exceed that. And we have exceeded that a number of years. And I think the best part is that instead of the 1.5%, we were at 2.8. Again, that is our highest. But more importantly, $183 million was awarded to hub zone companies as prime contractors. And we're gonna try, obviously, to get to that 3%, but that's how that 1.5% is assigned to us.
How do you think small business prime opportunities will be affected or increased with approximately $15 billion being awarded in the near term for large, full, and open contracts, such as GSMO2, DES, and DIOS?
I think one of the concerns that my office has is with these consolidation efforts that we have going on and the streamlining effects. So sometimes the strategic goals we have from DoD can conflict with our setting aside everything that is practicable for small business, conflicts with each other. And so again, every requirement that we have, our office is included in the planning part of it, and we review every instant procurement that comes through to make sure that the market research bears it. I think it's too soon to tell how it's going to affect it. When there are more dollars and more contracts, there may be more opportunities, but if we're consolidating everything into large, then my office needs to focus on setting higher bars for the subcontracting requirements. And I will add into that, when we talk about subcontracting, that in both the SETI and the Encore vehicles, both full and open and small business, both of those contracts do require that a quarterly report be sent to not only the contracting office, but my office, so that we can review those and help monitor those to ensure that those large businesses are enforcing and executing the plans that they agreed to. And so I would imagine on the GSMO and some of the other vehicles, we're going to be doing the same thing.
Is there any information that can be shared on the timeline on when the protest of the SETI small business contract may be resolved?
What I can tell you is, since there were a lot of them and we're at COFC, which doesn't have the strict timelines that GAO has, but right now our Department of Justice attorneys have negotiated a timeline that should get a decision in the springtime.
And we have a final question. Is the requirement to deliver 20 FTEs in your FFP example a FAR requirement or a DISA preference?
It's a DISA preference, as you know, firm fixed price and performance work-based, that you deliver what the deliverables are. Our point is that often we have companies that will propose in their Excel spreadsheet 20 FTEs and then deliver 8 or 10 or 12. And that's not what the expectation is. And sometimes it's because they can't find the people to sit in those seats with the clearances that we need. Other times they think they're delivering what we need with those few of people, and sometimes it's a combination of both. But I think a lot of people think if you propose 20 and you're only going to provide 8, that's not a good faith execution of what you proposed.
Thank you, Ms. Capenos.
All right. Okay.